One of Peppa Pig's biggest mysteries involves Mommy Pig's family and her sister Dotie, who seems really suspicious.
Is that Peppa?
Have you ever noticed that Aunt Dotie might be Mommy Pig's evil sister and that she could hold a lot of resentment toward the family? Of course, Aunt Dotie has every right to live wherever she wants, but here's the problem. She doesn't just live far away. Her family hides the fact that she even exists. But why? This theory suggests that she was, or still is, a very bad person, and that she was actually kicked out of the pig family for something terrible she did. But what was her crime? We'll get to that, but first, let's talk about who she is. Aunt Dotie has always been a strange character, ever since she was mentioned in Season 4 of Peppa Pig. In the episode Glitter Pony, the pig family receives a package from a country far from England, and years later, we find out that this place was actually the United States. Now, isn't it a little weird that she lives so far away? She doesn't even have the same accent as the people in England. This means that Dotie has been in the US for a long time, completely cut off from her parents, her sister, and her niece and nephew. Good thing we'll always stick together. Today, you're gonna hear the theory of Mommy Pig's evil sister. Grab your popcorn and get comfy on your couch, because it's time for another Cinewave video. Aunt Dotie resents her family and holds a grudge against her niece and nephew. And here's the proof that she actually met Daddy Pig before her sister even married him. We'll get into that later and explain exactly how this whole feud started. Many years ago, back when she was just Dotie, she met Daddy Pig and became friends with him in school. Let's not forget their teacher was Madame Gazelle, who definitely knew Mommy Pig's sister. The two little pigs became good friends, and here's an important detail. Dotie is older than Mommy Pig, and Daddy Pig is also older than his wife. This means it was much easier for him to get close to the pig who was closer to his own age. But Aunt Dotie wanted more than just Daddy Pig's friendship, and at first, things were going well, until he started getting close to her younger sister. Filled with anger and jealousy, the fights between the sisters became inevitable. Aunt Dotie tried to convince their parents that what her sister was doing was wrong, but Grandpa and Grandma Pig didn't agree and ended up kicking their daughter out of the house when she was still a teenager. Not convinced? Here are two pieces of evidence. 1. Aunt Dotie doesn't have an English accent. All of the characters in Peppa Pig have a typical English accent except for Aunt Dotie, who clearly speaks like an American. Adults don't usually lose their natural way of speaking, but children do. This suggests that she was sent away when she was still young. 2. There's no trace of Aunt Dotie at Grandpa and Grandma Pig's house. It's almost as if she never lived there, or maybe her parents threw away everything that belonged to her, or perhaps they stored it all in that attic filled with boxes. And there's one scene that might be a clue. When Mommy Pig goes up to the attic, there's music playing, supposedly Grandpa Pig's favorite song. But in a really rude manner, Peppa's mom turns off the record player, almost like she can't stand the song. It was a tune from the 1960s, and do you know what was trendy in the 60s? Polka dot dresses. Mommy Pig didn't want to be reminded of her sister. And the reason is that Aunt Dotie was in love with Daddy Pig and hates the fact that Peppa and George were born. Yes, she actually wanted something bad to happen to them. Not convinced? Here's the biggest proof of all. Aunt Dotie grew up in Peppa's town, right? She knows that everything there is built on steep and dangerous hills. So why did she send a wheeled toy that was bound to cause an accident, just like what happened to Daddy Pig? Daddy Pig rode the rocking horse, lost control, and fell into a puddle so deep it almost covered his entire body. If George had been the one using that toy, he could have drowned. Aunt Dotie knew this could happen, yet she still sent the gift to her niece and nephew, and she made sure to say it was for both of them. So it wouldn't matter which one used it, as long as one of them got hurt. Could the crime that got Aunt Dotie kicked out of the house have something to do with trying to harm Peppa when she was just a newborn? Or worse, could she have tried to do something to her own sister? Do you have an evil sister like Aunt Dotie? Comment #pig so we can get to know each other. In the episode Daddy's Birthday, there's a scene that shows Daddy Pig's workplace, and on his desk, there's a black and white photo. Many people assume it's a picture of Peppa and George, but no, that photo actually shows Aunt Dotie and Daddy Pig when they were kids because they used to be very close friends. For years, we thought this was proof that they were siblings, but since it was confirmed that Dotie is actually from Mommy Pig's side of the family, this photo tells a different story. That picture proves Aunt Dotie was closer to Daddy Pig than his future wife ever was. This theory suggests that one of the reasons for the feud between Aunt Dotie and her family is that the two sisters fought over Daddy Pig's love, but in the end, everyone sided with Mommy Pig. Not convinced that the photo shows Aunt Dotie? Here are 3 pieces of evidence. 1. The photo is black and white, meaning it's an old picture. Peppa and George weren't even born when it was taken. 2. The dress the little pig is wearing doesn't match anything Peppa has ever worn, but it's very similar to Aunt Dotie's dress. 3. Her name, Dotie, is a reference to polka dots. She wears polka dot clothes because she's Dotie. In the past, Daddy Pig must have been close to his future wife's sister, going to parties with her, playing together, and maybe even dating when they were teenagers. The proof that the photo isn't of Peppa and George is overwhelming, which makes us wonder, why does Daddy Pig keep a picture of his sister-in-law on his desk at work? Was she an old girlfriend? Someone he cared about deeply but was forced to leave behind? Did you know that England doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving? Want to know why that's important? Simple. When Aunt Dotie arrives at her sister's house to celebrate the holiday, Peppa asks what she's talking about. It would be strange for Peppa not to know about a holiday that her own country, England, celebrates every year, right? But when Aunt Dotie says it's a day when families come together to spend time with each other and be thankful for the good things in life, it might actually be an ironic jab at the family that abandoned and expelled her years ago. Want proof? Let's start with the fact that at the beginning of the episode, the Pig family was talking about buying food, not for a celebration or to host a visiting relative. They weren't expecting to see Aunt Dotie that day, and their reactions make it clear they weren't exactly thrilled about her visit. The biggest proof that Mummy Pig's sister isn't always welcome is the fact that she is never mentioned outside of that episode, except when she sent a gift to the nieces and nephews who didn't even know she existed. Why had Peppa and George never heard of Aunt Dotie before? And even more importantly, why does Mummy Pig refer to her as someone who lives far away in another country? That's not how people usually talk about a sibling. If the two were close, Mummy Pig would have said something like, "It's a package from my sister, who lives in the United States. I miss her so much. I wonder what she sent." But no, Mummy Pig doesn't show any warmth toward a relative who should have been very close to her. Let's take a closer look at the day we finally see Aunt Dotie to show just how strange her relationship with the rest of the family really is. 1. When the phone rings and Aunt Dotie is talking to her sister, Mummy Pig steps away from the phone and announces who's on the other end in a very odd way. You know when someone gets a call and has to tell the people around them who's on the line without the caller noticing? Mummy Pig says it's Aunt Dotie instead of something warmer like "it's my dear sister." 2. The visit is completely unexpected, so much so that no one bought food to host Peppa's aunt. If she had warned them in advance, the family would have probably found a way to avoid seeing her. Another strange thing is that Aunt Dotie didn't inform her parents, who should be the most important people in her life, that she was visiting. And when Mummy Pig calls Grandma Pig to share the news, their reaction isn't exactly joyful.
Hello, Mum.
Dottie's here!
Sure, maybe British pigs are a little more reserved when it comes to family, but considering how long it's been since Aunt Dotie last saw the rest of the pigs, it would have made a lot more sense for Grandma and Grandpa to be much more excited about their daughter's visit. You know who would be happy to see you every day? Us! So be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. During the visit, Aunt Dotie reveals that she only remembers Peppa as a newborn, meaning she doesn't even know George.
I haven't seen you since you were a baby.
But even though she has the chance to spend time with her nephew or reconnect with her sister, she doesn't. Instead, Aunt Dotie prefers to leave the house with Daddy Pig, the only person she actually seems to like, along with Peppa, who could be more than just her niece. What if she sees Peppa as her new daughter? What do you think? She might still hold a grudge against her sister, but after her past evil plan to hurt one of her nieces or nephews failed years ago, maybe Dotie is trying to reconnect just to get revenge in a different way. It's really strange to see how she arrives from her trip and immediately wants to go shopping with Daddy Pig, leaving her sister behind. And Mummy Pig even gives her sister a chance, inviting the whole family to welcome Aunt Dotie and celebrate a holiday that none of them actually observe. Everyone shows up, and we find out that Auntie Pig, Daddy Pig's brother's wife, has known Aunt Dotie for a long time. They all must have been childhood friends, yet not one of them ever mentioned Dotie in over 20 years of the show. America. We don't know exactly what Aunt Dottie's relationship with the rest of the family will be like in future seasons of Peppa Pig, but there's one thing that proves this family has serious issues. Have you ever wondered why the Pig family never visits Aunt Dotie when they travel to the United States? Maybe that's just more proof that Aunt Dotie is someone to be avoided. What's going on, Mummy Pig? You crossed the ocean and didn't even bother to see your sister? There's definitely a lot of evidence that there's some kind of feud between the Pig sisters, and their relationship will likely be explored in the future. But don't worry, you'll see all the breakdowns right here. We've got 2 more videos lined up for you to enjoy. See you in the next one.